This might be controversial, but being sober-minded, as listed in the Bible, is not just about drugs and alcohol. It is about something much, much deeper that can absolutely destroy the mission trip that you are about to go on. Hi, hello there. My name is Amanda. I'm a short-term missionary and a mom, and I'm here to help you understand the Great Commission just a little bit better. And one of the ways that we're going to do that today is that we're going to talk about the idea of being sober-minded. Okay, what does that mean and why does it sound preachy? It absolutely sounds preachy, but it's something that we have to discuss as Christians, especially those who are specifically going on missions, because the Bible warns against not being sober-minded in a very particular way. And I think it's important because I've been on trips where I have not been sober-minded and it has absolutely affected the trip in a very negative way. And I want to help you not have that experience. So let's talk about what it even means to be sober-minded. Where am I finding this term? What does sober-minded mean? We're going to be reading from the Bible, which I have pulled up on my little app right here. 1 Peter chapter 5. Verses 8 and 9. I'm reading from the CSB, and this is the verse that came to mind when I wanted to talk about this topic. It says, "Be sober-minded, be alert. Your adversary, the devil, is prowling and looking like a roaring lion, looking for anyone he can devour. Resist him firm in the faith, knowing that the same kind of sufferings are being experienced by your fellow believers throughout the world." So when we hear sober-minded, we tend to really think drugs and alcohol. And I'm going to talk about the two different types of sober-minded. One is going to be the drugs and alcohol side, and then the other side is absolutely going to be the drug and alcohol side. So for the drug and alcohol side, absolutely, you should be sober before you go on a mission trip. If you're dealing with some sort of addiction, whether that's an alcohol addiction, a drug addiction, or even an addiction to vaping, you absolutely should not go on a mission trip until you get that under control, because those substances should not be brought onto the mission field. I believe that those things could be hindrances. In the Bible, it also talks about not being a stumbling block for someone, and a lot of people deal with addictions in various ways when you are on the mission field. We deal with that in America, we deal with that on the foreign mission field. Everywhere you go, people are dealing with addictions, trying to find ways to fill that hole. And you don't want to be a stumbling block. So if you are currently actively dealing with some sort of addiction, absolutely get that figured out before you go on a mission trip. It might not be the news you want to hear, but I personally don't think that you are ready to go to the foreign mission field until you have handled that type of addiction. Does that mean you can't volunteer or you can't pour into your local community? Absolutely not. You can absolutely pour into your local community. You can absolutely do local mission work right here in your own town while you're working on that. I'm not saying you have to be a perfect person. I'm just saying that there are certain things that should not be on the mission field. If you're dealing with those addictions, first off, it's not your fault. I understand that addiction is a disease and needs to be treated as such. So I'm not blaming you, but absolutely get that figured out before you go to the foreign mission field. Still volunteer in your community, still go to church, still get involved in what's going on in your hometown. Sorry, it felt like a little soapboxy for a second. I wanted to speak candidly, but also hopefully with grace about that. And I want to talk about the other side of being sober-minded as described in Peter. The other kind of sober-minded that I don't think is talked about enough is the sober-minded of the mind, not just physically. I don't deal with an alcohol or drug addiction. That's not something that's part of my story. But I have other addictions. I'm addicted to drama and gossip, and I have to work tirelessly to give those things back to God every day. And I'm just being completely honest and candid with you about that. And I think if you searched your heart, you probably have something like that too, that can stop you from being as useful as you can be on the foreign field. I also have self-deprecation that I deal with. I put myself down a lot. I allow negative thoughts to speak into my brain, and that affects my actions, and that also affects my attitude. I tend to have bad attitudes when I'm upset. I shut down really easily. And those are things that allow your mind to not be clear and not be focused on God. And that is a form of not being sober-minded. So as a Christian, as a believer, as someone who goes and does foreign trips, before I go on the trip, as well as on the trip, and then when I come home, those are still things that I'm giving to God constantly. Because if I'm not doing that, I'm not alert. Satan can come in and he can get into my brain and he can cause chaos. I have been on a trip, and I've talked about it before, where I was not spiritually prepared for the trip because I allowed myself to not be sober-minded. I was so distracted and upset and angry at God for sending me on a trip I didn't want to go on, which of course is crazy amounts of petty. But I was so just honestly, I was a brat to God. And that allowed me to have a really bad trip because I was not prepared spiritually and I wasn't prepared to be sober-minded on the trip. So I had a bad attitude the entire time. And that caused me to have poor judgments and actually lose some valuable footage and pictures from the trip. That was the reason I went. I know that this topic isn't fun. I know that this topic isn't easy. But the reason that we are sober-minded is not just that we can feel holier than thou, right? It's not so that we can sit here and say like,
I'm such a good Christian and I, as an American, am coming in and I'm going to tell you that you're wrong and you have to live like me.
That's not what we're doing. We remain sober-minded because we know that the Christians and other people around the world, they are going through the same junk that we're going through and maybe even worse. And we're there to encourage them and to help them. As a missionary from the United States, my job is to not go in and make another country do things the way that as a United States individual would, right? My job is to go in and pour into the mission that is already happening there, which means I'm supposed to be an encouragement to the national mission team, as well as be an example to those who don't believe in God. And that should not be whether or not I'm this holier than thou individual that doesn't partake in anything. This is so that I can show the redemptive power of God and show what God can do in your life and through you when you allow him to. Does this mean you have to be perfect before going on a mission trip? No, you cannot be perfect. So don't let that stop you from going, but absolutely make sure you handle your junk before you go. Ways you can do that is talk to a biblical counselor or a pastor at your church, talk to your team leader, talk to your mentor, find people, spiritually older individuals in your life that you can pour into and say like, hey, these are things that I'm handling. I want to find ways of getting sober from gossip, getting sober from self-hatred or self-deprecation. I want to find ways of getting sober from bad attitudes. I want to find ways to show God even though it's hard. And I think that God will honor that. I truly think that when you submit that part of yourself to God, then God can do amazingly powerful things in your life. And I think that once you do that, he's gonna allow you to do some really cool things on the mission field. Satan is gonna come after you full force. So instead of allowing him to get into your head and mess with the trip and mess with your attitude or perceptions of what God is doing, let's just submit now and make the active choice now to get sober from those things that might keep us from having the clearest view of what God is doing. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, give me a thumbs up. It lets me know that you want to have these kind of more intentional and slightly harder conversations. No, but seriously, there are so many more things I probably could say about this topic and so many more conversations I'd love to have. So if you have a story down below of how you were able to give something to God before you went on a trip and you were able to just focus on God while you're on the trip, I would love to hear those stories. So write them down below in the comments. Let me know ways that you have been able to just kind of be freed from those things that plagued your mind and the awesome power of God. And I will see you all next time. Bye.